This episode contains discussions of mental health challenges, including references to suicide. If you or someone you know needs support, call Lifeline on 13 11 14. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always someone ready to listen. She's been hauling Australia for nearly 4 decades. Now she's hauling the industry into the future. G'day, I'm Shane Jacobson, and this is How You're Travelling, a podcast from Healthy Heads. Now today, I'm joined by the wonderful Heather Jones, 38 years behind the wheel and a woman reshaping the industry from the inside out. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Shane.
You've had quite a lot of time on the road, as we said, but you've also had an extraordinary journey along the way in many ways, and not all of it great, which is why I would call you a specialist in the field of advice for people on the road and in warehousing. Can you tell us your story? Because it is an incredible one. It's one of survival in domestic violence, of homeschooling kids in the cab and building a new life behind the wheel and helping others to be better drivers on the road. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? It's a heck of a journey. Can you tell us some about it?
Where to start?
I know.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be a truck driver or a business owner or driver trainer. I sort of grew up as a bit of a tomboy. I used to not like fast cars and motorbikes. My first car was an SLR 5000. So
I have to stop you there. Have you still got that car?
No, unfortunately, I sold it for $5,000 many years ago. I did.
That's not what the 5,000 on that car stood for, by the way.
My sister brought it.
Oh my God! Has she still got it?
No, she sold it as well.
I've got to stop asking questions, Heather, because all of these are going terrible. So yeah, go on. So sorry. Yeah. So a tomboy at heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to college, became a lady by becoming a secretary. And then became a legal secretary, and then got married and divorced, and those skills weren't transferable with 2 children in tow. So a friend of mine said to me, as long as you girls don't get out of the truck, you can come and drive for us. So that's what I did after my disastrous marriage, and my girls were 3 and 4 at the time, and we travelled throughout Western Australia and Northern Territory.
They were 3 and 4 when you were homeschooling them out of the cab.
Well, they weren't going to school then, but yeah, a couple of years later we did, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise they were that young. I don't know how old I thought they were. Sorry. You keep impressing me and blowing me away all at once, except for selling the SLR 5000. That just disappointed me.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed too. Imagine what I could do now. I could retire for a year or two if I had it.
You could.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so you've got young kids in the cab of the truck. I mean, number one, I'm impressed with an employer that would let that happen. But you were working and educating. I mean, as if either of those jobs isn't hard enough. So many people say, blokes are guilty of it all the time. Oh, I've got a hard day's work. You did a hard day's work whilst also being a teacher and being a mum all at once of young kids in the cab of a truck.
Well, I think I've often said that you do what you've got to do, and when you're put in a situation like we were, we just got on with it. I actually don't know how I did it now. I actually don't. But, lesson planning and classroom and food preparation for quite a few days and clothes and kids and loads and everything. But it obviously worked really, really well for us. Had 2 really great employers that let me take my children with me. And I'd really like to see a lot more of that happening today. I think it would solve a lot of problems with our training, and 2, with our families at breakdown, because a lot of our guys are out in the trucks for so long.
Yeah, it's a theme that keeps coming up. That's having to. I mean, no one solved it better than you did. And what I'm talking about is people get in the cab of their truck. As we keep saying, it's a lonely existence in the cab of a truck, and then they drive away from family or loved ones. You did the opposite. You loaded them in the truck with you, and you didn't drive anywhere away from them. You drove with them. What? How long were you home? I've got to ask, because as a parent of 4 kids, I don't know how you did it. I know you've said even now you look back and wonder how you did it. I just wonder how you did it non-stop. I would never have been able to do that. How long were you homeschooling your kids in the cabin of a truck?
7 years.
Oh.
But also, Shane, we did have a home that we would go back to every now and then. So it wasn't like months and months. It was 4 or 5 or 6 days. Sometimes we did a couple of weeks, but then we'd go home for a few days or a week, and then we'd go back again. So
you're still saying that like it's a good thing. I reckon 20 minutes in the car with my kids, I'm all ready to jump out of the car. And I'm not trying to teach them anything. I'm just trying to get them from A to B. And I get to about A plus. I don't even know if I can get to B. That's incredible. I have to ask as a parent, firstly, and this is just me being curious now, what sort of relationship did that give you with your kids? It must be some incredible connection that they were with you on the road. Do you look back on it in some ways as fond times of being, literally incredibly close to your children?
Oh, absolutely. Very, very close. But I was a really strict parent, so my girls used to call me mean mother.
I reckon that's a badge of honour, Heather. Print that on a shirt. Take it, I reckon.
Mother, yeah. Only because, the two-way radio is our lifeblood to safety on the road. And they'd be singing or telling stories, or we'd all be mucking around, yahooing a little bit. And I'd hear something, I'd go, shh, and they'd be in mid-song and they'd go, just dead stop. So, she's a mean mother.
So it's 38 years of driving. Is that, as I said at the top of the show, it's nearly 4 decades. And you said you never imagined you would be a truck driver, and yet here you are all these years later. And you're teaching, you're educating people on truck driving. I want to talk about that a little bit. So that I know you've said that you don't believe that the way that drivers are licensed or tested today before they hit the road proper is enough. And can you tell us a bit about that and what you're doing to remedy that?
When you look at other countries, say America, the minimum for a CDL over there is 1 month, and you actually are in the classroom training, and then you have a driver trainer with you. It could be 2, 3, 4 or 5 weeks after that. In Sweden, it's 9 months. Germany, it's 9 months. Australia, it might be 3 days or 4 days.
Wow.
So we really don't do driver training well, cars, motorbikes or trucks. And I was handed a set of keys at one employer's place, pointed to the truck and said, off you go. And I do like telling this story because I had driven a Mercedes and a Volvo. And at this employer's place, I had a cab over Kenworth, K100. And the whole braking system is completely different. So in the Volvo, you just pull a lever and click it down. In the Kenworth, you've got a yellow, a red and a black brake to supply the air to your trailers. So here I am, I'm trying to start the prime mover and move it. So I got on the two-way radio with 3,000 men listening to me. And I said, copy, anyone out there, can you tell me how I can release the brakes on this Kenworth? Because I'd been trying for probably an hour. Too much confusion of if you're a female and you don't know how to release brakes, you shouldn't even be in the truck, love. So eventually we got it going, and I hooked up to the trailer and went down to the fertilizer plant, and I rocked in and they said to me, so how much do you want? Oh, I didn't know how much I could carry legally. No one told me that. I just had the keys to the truck. So I said, well, how much can I have? And at that moment, I sort of thought, I don't ever want any other person to go through this again, because it was extremely... I'd held my license for quite some time. I thought I knew what I was doing because I'd held it for quite a few years, but I just got into a different truck, a different configuration, and then started carting fertilizer, whereas I've been carting general freight. So it was just so different. So at that sort of moment, I thought, if it's ever in my power, I'd like to make sure that no one ever has to go through what I've gone through now.
I only drove a Volvo truck once. This was a long, long, long time ago. And it was a guy, it wasn't my truck, and it was another guy's truck. And we were driving out of a yard and he hadn't yet got his seatbelt on, and the brakes were just so much more touchy than the trucks I'd driven. They just did their job properly, to be honest, and I wasn't ready for it. And I'd driven trucks, and I tapped the brakes and fired him into the windscreen of his own truck. Literally, like a mosquito on a windshield, he was on the inside window. And I went, well, I need a bit more time in this truck before I touch those brakes again.
They have got brilliant brakes. They are just brilliant, the Volvo brakes.
Yeah, I reckon they'd be better when you're dragging a load, but it certainly I hadn't hooked up yet, so it stopped a bit quick for me. So that the training thing that you're doing now, it makes so much sense hearing that story that your mission is to just make sure that no one's ever in that position again. So you're doing, and that's to make, number one, no one needs to be in that embarrassment, and everyone else should be trained better, and not knowing what weights you can haul, as we both know, can be incredibly dangerous. Like, if you got too much on board, apart from the fact it's illegal and there's fines and all the rest of it, it just gets dangerous. So there's all this stuff you're doing here, but the other space we want to talk about as far as safety is the safety of one's mind. And of course, we're talking about mental health. And it's a space that you're working in now as well. So what advice have you got for people, number one, who are starting out? Because I'm going to assume there's, only because you work in this space a lot, there's not many people I get to talk to on this podcast about this. But for young, we've spoken to experienced truck drivers like yourself about driving and loneliness on the road and everything else. But your story, that's why I'm so thrilled you're on the show with us. Your story is so different. Not that you haven't experienced all these things, you've done it all. But to talk to younger drivers, so number one, you do driver training, but about how to prepare. You want to prepare them for different kind of, not just how to drive a truck, but life on the road and everything else. Is mental health now so much of what, or a lot of what you talk to them about, to prepare them for what life on the road may be like? To know which one's the accelerator and which one's the brake, how to hook up a trailer and trailer brakes and all that stuff, that's great. And getting the air up, all of that's great. But the mental health is something that doesn't get covered in a license, does it? And yet it's probably the most dangerous part of the job.
Yeah, mental health and fatigue. Yeah, absolutely. We do. I think our younger drivers are more tech savvy than perhaps we are. And they've got a lot of podcasts that they actually listen to in daily life. I asked quite a few questions last week when we were asked if we were interested to come on and have a chat with you. And they just rattled off lists and lists of podcasts that they listen to. So I was actually really, really interested. The girls are quite different to the boys, of course. But we also go through the factors that actually contribute to mental health. So being active, running around the truck a couple of times, you're 60 metres long, so you don't have to do a few laps before you've done a kilometre. How to work out on your bull bar or your fuel tank, but also to eat healthy as well. So healthy mind, healthy body. And, you are what you eat. All those sayings are so true, but just to be able to combine that and have healthy food, exercise during the day, and some tricks and tips on what to do if you are feeling a little bit down. I'd really like to bring back the old service stations that we had in the old truck stops where we all would meet up and we'd all sit down and we'd have a nice healthy meal, have a chat, and then we'd get in our trucks and go. So we've got healthy food, which obviously feeds our bodies, but also that conversation and, the good old Aussie, I knew you were going to drop that load. I just thought I'd see how long before that strap broke, or, all that banter and everything that we used to have with each other. I'd really like to see that come back, because we've got a situation now that we really need everyone to say, right, enough's enough. We're going to say g'day. We're going to stop to our mates when they're broken down, have a yarn, and just say g'day when we even just pay for our fuel. That is so healthy for your mind.
Heather, it's a lot of the old-time truck drivers like yourself, it seems to be the same songbook you're all singing from, which is the old roadhouses. There was a bit of a sort of a truck driver camaraderie, wasn't there? I mean, that would have got to. I'm hoping for you got past the female driver thing, and once you'd had enough road miles that you were just considered one of the drivers. Am I right in saying that, or am I wrong?
Yep, absolutely. And the closest family members are those I've chosen out on the road, and those guys that have been driving with us for 30, 40 years. Still in contact with Kirsty and Chelsea as well, because both, I didn't tell you, did I? Both my daughters are in the business with me now. So
no. So what do they do, Heather?
So Kirsty's got an MC license. She's just had a little granddaughter, so she's out of the truck for the moment. So she's doing compliance and all the office work with us. And Chelsea is my PA, drives trucks as well, but is pretty much tied up in the office with all the work that we need to do to obviously conduct our business.
Is she HC or MC? Is she heavy
One's
combination?
MC, one's HR, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Oh, heavy rigid, fair enough. Good. I keep talking about the fact I can only rave. I'm HC. I'm only Sammy, as we used to call it, but MC got me beat again. Gee, your hot tips. I've got the short listed here that you just ran through. That learn something while driving. When you were talking about podcasts, I love that bit of information, which is about, as you're saying, the kids are more tech savvy, but you've said podcast, learning a language or a life skill. Such a great tip for while instead of feeling lonely on the road, feeling like you're bettering yourself on the road.
Oh, absolutely. And the language, I was listening one day in Karratha. We were all unloading a boat, and probably there wasn't any truck driver that was under 50 at the time. And they sort of started talking to each other about what storybooks they were listening on CD and podcasts. And I was just so proud and so in awe of what these guys were saying. And I just thought, if the community heard these intelligent people comparing notes on everything they were listening to and what they'd learned, they'd be blown away. It was a really, really, really empowering moment. I was listening, oh, go the boys.
Yeah. Arthur, our expert, covered this beautifully. Let's take a listen to this bit here.
It's about learning. How do we keep learning? How do we develop what's known as a growth mindset? If you're not familiar with that, basically the concept behind that is you can either have a fixed or growth. Fixed, it's static. Things are as they are. Things can't change. I am who I am. That's how I'll always be, and that's it. Whereas a growth mindset is it's a learning theory, and the concept behind that is I can learn and grow and become better at things. So how do we just take that time to keep learning different things? Do you want to be the rock or the stream? My sister has always said that when things are tough or things are challenging, the rock doesn't move and it has to fight. It has to fight hard
to stay there. Yeah.
Whereas the stream finds ways around.
It just goes around the rock.
That's right. So how we overcome adversity, challenges. What am I putting in my mind? Am I putting in the rocks, basically? Things that are making it harder and harder? Or am I replenishing it with things that represent the stream in many ways? And it's just becoming aware of that. What am I filling my mind up with? Is it helpful or unhelpful?
The other one you said is don't overdo caffeine. I thought that was isn't it funny? Drowsy drivers die. We've heard all the old warnings and everything else, and there's fatigue and everything else. But it's such a great, as you said, healthy body, healthy mind. One of your tips that I've heard you put out there is don't overdo the coffee. Move your body instead. Such a great tip, because we all know it's the go-to. If you're drowsy, you have a coffee. I mean, that's been the age-old adage forever. But being that you guys are on the road so often, so long, if that turns into a lifetime of just sculling coffees, that's just not going to work for you long term, is it?
And also it gives you the jitters. Have you ever had so much coffee that you actually have the jitters?
Yes, more often than I care to admit, Heather.
Yeah, well, that's not healthy behind the wheel.
No, I know, but imagine how bad it would be. I know, but I'm only control of the microphone quite often, so it's not as dangerous. But for me, it is, to your point. But for me, it's too much coffee. So you're right. Yeah, I do. My body vibrates. If you put me in a bath of water, I could probably do your clothes. I shake like a monster. And the other one is ask roadhouses. This has come up a little bit too. Ask roadhouses for better food and toilets. That's another one, especially for the female drivers. And the industry, for good reason, is attracting more female drivers, and I hope it continues to do so. But in order for that to happen, we are going to need better toilets for our female drivers, aren't we? And I imagine if you're out there and these facilities aren't there, that'll get you down and that'll get you annoyed. Next thing you know, you're back in the truck, and next thing you know, to all of our female drivers listening, and it would drive them mad, I imagine. And that's something we've got to look at doing too, yeah?
Yeah, well,
Improving those facilities.
I did have a nickname, the toilet lady, because 25 years I've been trying to promote better rest areas and toilets. And I've got some photos that I'll send you later that are really disgusting. And these photos are taken within the last 12 months. I think it is an absolute disgrace that our regional roads, main roads in Western Australia, don't clean the toilets that are already provided for us, and that the roadhouses don't keep the toilets clean as well. I'll judge a roadhouse by the state of their toilets.
Yeah.
And if their toilets are bad, I won't eat in the kitchen.
That's such a good point. I mean, why would you, right?
Yeah, but definitely need toilets. And it's not just women as well, Shane, because this generation, they don't want to have to put up with the last generation did, peeing behind the wheel or running into the bush. They actually don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the contributing factors to the younger generation not coming out and joining us in the industry. Mind you, there's an awful lot of people who are interested through multiple generations, but that's something that we could actually change pretty much instantly, rather than sending millions of dollars to things that don't make sense to me. Let's put it in the roads and the services for the road transport, because without trucks, and I know we say it just becomes a cliche, but without trucks, Australia does stop. We don't have, we build service and maintain everything.
And so here's the thing that I say all the time, and that is that for something to become cliche, it has to work really hard to become so. It has to have proven to be right throughout history. So you're right, it does sound cliche, but the truth is, the best news is, you are right, it is right, and continues to be right and always has been. That if literally warehouse workers and truck drivers tomorrow all got sick at the same time, we'd be in trouble, and we'd find out about it in a hurry. There's nothing in a house that hasn't been on a truck, really. There's not. I mean, isn't that true? There's not too much that's in a house that hasn't been in the truck, other than the humans that inhabit it, and even they, end up at some point a piece of freight on a plane or on a bus or whatever. But there's not too much in a house that hasn't been on the road. So it is so true, and I do find it fascinating that because in particular, not so much with our warehouse workers, but with our truck drivers, that your office is the cab, and therefore your office environment is in fact this great nation's roads. That the bad toilets, at the moment that you're having to deal with, that's your workplace environment. And if it was any other office space, they'd shut the factory down. So as much as you say that people are saying to you, you're the toilet lady. And trust me, Heather, you're talking to the right guy. Trust me, people call me, I reckon I've been called the toilet man more than you've been called the toilet lady. Trust me, with the film Kenny, maybe we should team up. But it's, but it is something you should continue to yell about, because it's working conditions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, I did a little bit of a survey in a couple of the roadhouses about 10 years ago, and I was just asking about toilet facilities for females, and I had a whole lot of big bulky truckies come over to me, males, and say, "Hey love, we actually want to use toilets as well. It's not just a female thing." And I think that was a moment of clarity too, is that it's just a basic human necessity. We shouldn't be saying women or men need them. We actually all need them.
Well, if they were yelling as loud as you did, as quick as you did, and as much as you did, then they'd be called the toilet man as well. So they should still be thankful, but I get what you're saying. They did. Yeah, get on board. Yeah. Rather than tell you the message is wrong, tell you to add something to your message, I reckon. It's been said that you sort of say, and I love this, that being in control of a big truck in many ways can be healing. I don't have to speak to the drivers out there now that do it, because as we know, sometimes it is. Sometimes we're not saying everything's bad in the cab of a truck. Like sometimes, and for our drivers who are caught up in cities, I mean, God, how much would they love the opportunity? We've got people out there driving smaller transport vehicles and heavy ridges around cities, caught in traffic and having to look out for low bridges, and just a nightmare trying to get in and out of, loading docks that are in built-up areas. They'd give anything to hit the open road. It is healing. It can be healing, isn't it? Because this podcast is not talking about all doom and gloom in the cab of a truck. We do want to take a moment to go, if you can find those moments of clarity, and our expert Arthur talked about mindfulness, which is being in the now, enjoying the now. The anxiety is what is ahead. Depression can be what's in the rear vision mirror, but in the present and enjoying the open road, that it can be healing to be in control of a big rig. That's something you agree with, yeah?
Yeah, so the other side of our training is for people who have come from trauma situations or domestic violence. We've put through quite a few hundred women who experience domestic violence, and it actually changes their whole life. So when you hop up in a beautiful big truck, especially a nice pink shiny one, it suddenly becomes so empowering. The vision, the height, you're in control of something that sometimes the abuser was in control of, or or you're equal to the males then. And then once you continue on in your journey and you can actually do the things that, or be better than some of those guys out there on the highway, it actually really empowers and strengthens and builds a really strong bridge to repair for these women. And some men too. We've had some domestic violence surviving men as well that we've trained. And then they get on with their career, and they're also mingling with our beautiful men out on the highway that support what we do and support women in the industry and support each other in the industry. And so once they've taken on this career, it actually changes their life. So they've got somewhere to live. They live in the truck because a lot of these ladies are homeless. They earn really great money, and they travel all over Australia, so they get paid to see the country. But not only that, they build a really strong network with us, and we provide male mentors to them that they can connect with all the time, particularly for, if you've done a load or you've loaded something up and you just want to talk to someone who's not your boss, and you send them a photo and you say, hey Cliffy, have I strapped this on properly? Or hey Spider, have I got this across the correct axle group? So that builds that rapport with one, men. Not all men are abusers. Number two, you're doing a really, really great job. Number three, you've got somewhere to live. And number four, you're earning really good money. Really, really good money.
Which obviously offers them some kind of hope in the future that they could resettle again elsewhere. Heather, I feel like a complete fool. I feel like an imbecile here. I'd never thought about or factored in the fact that survivors of domestic violence in the job of being a truck driver, and if they're doing long haul or interstate stuff, would then find themselves a job and a home all in one. I'd never thought about that until those words left your mouth. So is it something we, in this podcast, that we should ensure that people are hearing this? For me, hearing that for the first time, like that, for me, that's a light bulb moment to go, oh my God, I hadn't even considered that. That should we be making sure that people spread that message if they know a person that is caught in the world of domestic violence, experiencing it and looking for a way out, because this whole podcast is about mental health, and even if we move away from truck driving and warehousing staff for now, if this message can get to someone that's experiencing domestic violence, and we can attract them to this world and go, we've got a safe haven, we've got a job for you waiting here, and it comes with your own mobile home. Is that the message you'd like to see get out there more?
Oh, absolutely. And the highest number of homelessness is amongst the age of women over 50. The highest number of homelessness is over women over 50, 55. And we work in that area as well because, once again, they've got a home. A lot of those women don't even have a car to live in.
And is that a result of domestic violence for the most part, or is it just circumstantial that they've had to leave the workplace to become a mum and then find themselves homeless and then struggle to get back in the workplace, or all of the above?
Yeah, normally a lot is domestic violence and also relationship breakdowns. So the male's got most of the assets in their name, and the women have been left with nothing because, as you say, they've been bringing up children all their life. But they make fantastic truck drivers. They are so good. They've managed the money, they've managed the home, they've managed children growing up, and they've got the skills that we really, really need to put behind the wheel. And they make great truck drivers.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're a great advertisement for them for good reason. So I would love to think that out of this, and if anyone does find themselves in a situation where they can give that advice to someone, to a lady who once again is experiencing the trauma and tragedy of domestic violence, that if you can literally just recommend truck driving as a career change. And Heather, you said it yourself that you never considered being a truck driver, and yet here you are 38 years later. And what I do love about hearing the way you speak about it is you speak about it, and I hope I'm not being too much when I say almost romantically, that you've got these great mates, men and women, on the road who are your buddies, that truck drivers are still friends with your daughters that you homeschooled in a truck, and there are now women themselves driving trucks and having truck license who are part of this family on the road that have their back emotionally and probably even physically, that this is a world that is a safe haven for them. Heather, all this great work you're doing around getting, giving women an opportunity who have survived domestic violence to train them to be truck drivers. You're doing some work in that space now, though, actively, aren't you? Well, you've always been doing it actively, but now you've got something that's been kicked off by one of the mines or something. Have I got this right?
Yeah, we've got a program in the Pilbara supported by Fortescue Mines, and we're training 24 new truck drivers, from some of them from trauma and some of them from domestic violence, to give them a really great head start in the industry. And once they finish at the mine, they can either stay at the mine or get out on the road and drive trucks up and down the highway.
So you're doing this like kind of as we speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, up in the Pilbara in one of their mines, and huge shout out to Fortescue for supporting this program and putting their money into it.
I'd love to think that if people are out there hearing this and they've got someone in that circumstance, they'll tell them, but also that one day I'd love to think that feedback would get to us, or at least at the very least to you, Heather, to say thank you for salvation and for hope and a future.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got some really amazing stories. I'll probably just share one or two with you.
Please.
They've given me permission to do that. Had this lady who worked in an office job, and unfortunately her husband died by suicide, and she had children. She was very, very, very broken. So she sort of rolled through life quite terribly, and came to one of our programs and wrote a about 14-page letter to me at the end of it. I've now found my calling. I feel safe, and now I'm a truck driver. So, it really sort of chokes me up a little bit, that story, because the things that she went through, you could write a book about, and we gave her the opportunity to come do some training with us, and that was her story. Another lady, homeless, couch surfing in her 50s, had lost everything due to a marriage breakdown, and I think she's 58, a training program that we started and that she joined. She had bought a car in the first 6 months, and in the first 18 months she'd put a deposit on a single bedroom unit in Perth. Wow. So the training that we do and the jobs that we place them in are actually changing lives.
Yeah. Heather, this is not an advertising format, but to hell with it. How can people find you? Because I don't care. I want to do it. How can people find you? People that, if people out there listening have a friend who's in a situation where they think you may be of help and this may be a career path for them, how do they find you or the training courses?
So it's Pilbara Heavy Haulage Girls Group, and it's Facebook page, Instagram, or online.
Just say that name one more time, just for me, just so I get to hear you say it twice.
Pilbara Heavy Haulage Girls Group.
There we go. I'm just trying to get it in people. Repetition is how advertising works, Heather. I wanted to give you 2 bites at the same cherry, just to make sure we extracted all the juice out of it. It seems like an obvious thing to say, but I'm going to pose it in a question, which is, why is it so important for everyone on the road to have someone to talk to, and in our warehousing staff as well? Why is it so important for everyone to have someone to talk to? I know it's an obvious thing to say, but I'd just love to hear the way you word it, because you've had so much experience in this space.
I don't think there's any one answer for that, but it's we weren't made solo, individual, lifeless, non-connecting humans. We actually need people to be fully functioning people in this society. Some of us need more, some of us need less. A lot of truck drivers do choose truck driving because they do like their own company for a very long time, but they also need to talk to people as well. And we're part of a community and a society where we do need each other. Some people all the time, some people now and then. But as far as our mental health, and we always go back to the good old days in the truck stops and rest areas, and we sit down and have a bit of a yarn with each other. The older guys would teach the younger guys things that we don't get to do now. You'd come in and you'd say, "Hey, how you going, Bill?" And he'd sort of shove the arm, and we'd sit down, we'd ask, if you had this load or you had this tyre, do that, what would you do? So we get all that education, that training through our mentors who were our truck buddies. We need that. We need that more so now than ever before, because we have so many new drivers on the road that actually really don't have a clue about much of anything at all. So we really do need to help each other out and just be a mate.
Well, I know it sounds so simple, and yet it seems it's disappearing. I don't want to be too, kind of depressing in a global note, that it does seem to be happening more to humanity. But it's interesting what you say. Again, we're obviously here to talk about things surrounding mental health, but we're talking about making a workplace more enjoyable and survivable. That it's an interesting point that what we're trying to get drivers to do and workers to do is to have more connections. So, again, I keep referencing our expert, Arthur, who's told us that, connections are one of the key factors in mental health. People with a lot of connections making great connections, and we don't mean, connecting on the internet. We mean actually connecting with another human, having a conversation, asking them how they're traveling, and they ask you the same, and whatever conversation ensues from there. So he's saying, that communication and connection is so much a part of it. 48% of mental health is around that. But there's that added advantage with what you're saying now of the way it used to work at a truck stop or a rest stop or whatever, or just, if a few trucks are pulled up along, beside each other trying to unload or load at a loading dock somewhere, that what a great excuse it might be to form a connection, to go to an older driver or another driver or a driver of different experience. Hey, mate, how you going? What are you hauling? Where do you work? What's your name? Whatever it may be. Hey, I've got to do this route, or I've done this, or I've experienced this in a truck, or I've just heard this. What's your hack for that, or what are your thoughts around that? Next thing you know, you're having a conversation that may benefit the knowledge you have about the job that you do, which surely can't be a bad thing. Having said that, you're now having a chat with a stranger. Would it be fair to say that might be a good cheat to go and meet someone and get free advice? Because for the most part, if you ask someone advice, I think, in my opinion, and I think it still happens in this country, when you ask someone for their advice, it makes them think that you think they might have some knowledge you don't have, and they can't wait to vomit the information at you. Would that be fair to say? And is it a good hack?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've probably heard from everyone you've talked to as well, if you're a tipper driver, you have absolutely no idea about float work or tanker work or general freight, So just because you're a driver doesn't mean that you're across the board in every other area of the industry. Unfortunately, employers think because you've got a license you are, but we as drivers know we aren't. But and just I like to have a chat, as you might be able to tell. So,
you and me both, Heather.
Someone, and there's always something you can find in common with them. Like anything, you've got the Volvo Scania drivers versus the Mack and the Kenworth drivers, and you've got that sort of little bit of niggling bit going on where they make fun of each other and all that sort of stuff. But there's a Suzu drivers. There's a Suzu drivers too, Heather. I should let you know. There's a Suzu truck. So Suzu driver, yeah, that's right. And the others,
I'm an ambassador for Suzu. So we want to mention all of the brands, but I want to mention a Suzu while we're at
it. Sorry about the brands I've missed out.
No, it's just wanted to get that brand in. That's all.
Yeah, they'll be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, so am I.
So even just that bit of tongue in cheek and that Australian comedy that we have with each other with our trucks and what we like and what we wear, that's a conversation starter. You've just got to start that conversation, or just wave. We've got a whole lot of people that say just bring back the wave. How much,
So is that missing
someone waves back?
Is that missing on the roads now? I keep assuming whenever I've driven, I've done interstate stuff with rock and roll trucks and stuff when I've had to drive here and there. There's always been the wave. I raise a finger and I've you know what I mean. You lift your fingers off the wheels, sort of thing. The truck driver salute. The hands don't leave the wheel salute, which is what it is, isn't it? But
two-finger wave, yeah.
Yeah, the two-finger wave. I still get it back. So is that disappearing now? Is that?
It is.
Is it?
Yep. Yeah. The closer you get to cities, the less people wave. Yeah.
It still happens on the long, lonely roads. I mean, you still get the two-finger truck salute, not the bad one for those. Really?
Yeah, not always. No, that's starting to disappear. So even if we could bring that back, that's a connection. You've got a response.
Oh, I honestly, this is the first time I've been told that's starting to disappear. I just assumed that was still. Don't get me wrong. In the cities, I get it. Once you hit traffic, that's gone. No one's looking into another cab going, look at us, we're driving trucks. Everyone's just dealing with the fact, oh man, I'm stuck in traffic. And as you know, even once the traffic starts, once you start dealing with traffic, that all stops. I get that. But I didn't know it was still happening out there on, dare I say it, the long, lonely roads. I just assumed that thing, I just thought that's just been a staple. So for everyone listening now, if you've stopped doing that, start that again. That's Heather's request and it's my demand, because it was that was the thing. I loved visiting whenever I've never worked interstate hauling as a professional career, but I've spent a lot of time in trucks and I've got my own trucks and I've spent time on the road just through rock and roll stuff and as in literally in the rock and roll industry. And I love that when I used to get up at driver height, to get up at, kind of heavy haul and height, I joined a new community. Like there was as we know, everything above the roofline of cars is a whole separate community that live a few meters higher off the ground that were connected, particularly in between capital cities. And I just love the fact that everyone went, here we are. And I just assumed that was still going. So that must come back. Now one thing that I found, fascinating is too strong a word, but I'm going to go with it. I thought it was poignant. That's what it was, is that I know you've said that drivers have more power than they think. I'm not sure that you in particular talk about female drivers. I think it was just a general comment that if you're a good driver, if you focus on being a good driver, that there's power in that, there's value in that, and employers would be looking for good drivers with good records, good experience. And I assume the training course you put people through, which provides a better educated driver. So can you talk to that a little bit?
I think, unfortunately, a lot of our industry is pushed by the absolute dollar. Yes, we are all well aware that we all need to make money, but the pressure put on drivers sometimes is ridiculously stupid. It really, really is. And if you're a really good driver, you have that power to say, no, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there at 8 p.m. tonight. I'll be there tomorrow morning. You need to take the power back. I'm not talking about parking all your trucks up and all that sort of stuff, but bring the power back that's reasonable so that you become a safe driver. You're not pushed to the limits and you're not made to feel that you're sackable tomorrow because you've said, no, I need to sleep tonight. I actually need to sleep. And I think that obviously our roads will be safer and our drivers will be safer, but also we really do have that position of power by saying that when you put unreasonable demands on our drivers. You just have to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that.
And for the most part, where do you think the unreasonable demands are coming from? Is it the employer? It's a bad employer?
Oh, a lot of areas, I think. I find middle management, especially if there's bonuses involved. They'll do shortcuts to get their bonus at the end of the year or their June 30 tax bonus. They'll push people so that they get their bonus. Maintenance will be stopped because they want their bonus. Whilst bonuses are great, I think they really, really are a bad thing for safety.
Yeah.
Shortcuts are made.
I used to like hearing it referred to as upper middle muddle management. I had a friend that's what he used to call it. This is a directive that's come from the upper middle muddle management. But it's a good point you raised that, and not that we're trying to be too political on this podcast. In fact, not at all. But we're trying to be helpful, not political. But if bonuses end up causing someone else just trying to push you harder to get more productivity out of the human that makes it unsafe, that's not ideal. But also, it can create pressures and stresses mentally on people. And again, that's where our concerns are, is these pressures. We've spoken to a few drivers, and spoken to many drivers, but talk about, there's a lot of rules in place to keep the road safe. We get it, and there probably is. Oh no, you tell me, Heather, as a question before I keep going. Are there too many rules now? We don't want it to be unsafe, but have the rules got to the point that it has made it almost impossible to do your job? Not impossible, but has it made it much, much, much harder to do your job, or do you think it's in the right spot? What do you think?
I think it's made it harder to do your job. Yeah, definitely. Mm.
And of course, we don't want to see the days of people on the truck, behind the wheel for 18 hours straight and doing some 4-hour turnaround and back on the road again. Like, we don't want to see that. But is it the wrong people making the wrong decisions that they think will end up with the right outcome?
I think when you don't know something, you actually don't know. So you've got a lot of people making decisions that have never been in a truck, or never lived in a truck, or never lived on the road. For example, I had this. So I've got my own trucks, own business, drive, and I drive full time. I had this contractor I was working for, and I'm pretty cruisy. Nothing sort of flaps me, but he rang me 18 times that day to see where I was. 18 times. So in the end, I said, if you really want to see where I am, come and hop in the truck with me, then you know where I am every second. So the
18 times, like, not roughly literally.
No, it was 18 times and 12-hour day. It was because we had to change some paperwork for some septics that I was carting, but he didn't have the control waste paperwork for me, so I couldn't do his job because he couldn't meet up with me. It was in a fairly large town, but that stress placed upon me was really unbelievable. So, and it's my business and it's my trucks, okay? And that stress placed upon me was unbelievable. So I can only imagine how a driver would be working for a company where the allocator rings up and says, oh, where are you? Where are you? How long are you going to be? Where are you? So that makes your whole head not focus on what you're doing, because, I better not stop, go to the toilet, grab a coffee because I've got to keep going. And that's what, you've got the power. Pull it back. Hey, mate, I'm here. You know how long it takes, or check your tracking.
I've got some quick fire questions for you, Heather.
Rightio.
What really lets the air out of your tyres or grinds your gears? That's the way I've chosen to word it.
Oh, goodness me.
Sounds like there's a list.
Lack of appreciation and respect for truck drivers.
There you go. Well said. Well, we hope this podcast does a little bit to further that. If I put you in charge of every road in Australia tomorrow, if I had that power, what would you change first?
The shoulders. I'd put a metre on, at least a metre on every single road on the shoulders, because that gives us a safe place to drive and to get out of the way. Can I only have one option?
No, go two. You get a free kick, go.
Number 2 would be nice, clean toilets.
That's a good list. Wider roads, cleaner toilets. Me, I'd ask for wider toilets, but that's a problem. That's a me problem, not a you problem. That's a big one. What's the weirdest thing you've seen out of your front windscreen?
You've actually got me there. I think the weirdest thing is when you're tired. You see all sorts of things, and then you pull over. Yeah, that'd be the weirdest thing.
So I can confess this because you have. I did Melbourne to Alice Springs with about 2 hours sleep, long time ago, and I went round a roundabout about 4 hours shy of Alice Springs. There's no roundabouts. I kind of steered around a roundabout, and there was no roundabout there. Anyway.
So when you're tired, you see lots of kangaroos and bulls that are sitting on the side of the road. They're just tiny shapes. They don't exist. Yeah.
So I had a cow standing on the side of the road staring at me, and but there was no livestock out where we were. Same thing. Yeah.
Time to pull over and have a sleep. That's what you got a bed behind you for.
It was a long while ago. Now I wouldn't drive that long. Last one. Would you rather back a B double blindfolded or explain logistics to an in-law or someone who doesn't work in the industry?
Why am I blindfolded?
We just reckon that'd be a hard thing to do. But if you chose that over explaining logistics to someone who doesn't get it, you might go.
I'll probably choose that. Yeah.
Well, Heather, I've got to say thank you so much for coming on the show. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you have such a unique a view of the world on the road. Again, just to kind of recap everything you've done, the fact that you never imagined being a truck driver, and yet here you are, nearly 4 decades behind the wheel, a mum who's taught homeschooled her children, but we've got to come up with a new expression because you truck schooled them in the cab of a truck, as if driving a truck's not hard enough. So instead of missing your family, you took them with you. And to get to the point that now your daughters are driving trucks as well, you're such a great advocate for it. You're just such a wealth of experience, but also you're so good at speaking out, I think, about the things that do matter and targeting the stuff that people do need to focus on. And also what you do in the domestic violence space, from someone who's survived it, but now what you're doing to try and change other people's lives on behalf of the lives you have changed. Thank you so much. But on behalf of the lives that you will change, thank you so much. And I do want to repeat again that your idea that if there are women out there or people or men who are in a domestic violence situation or circumstance that they want to escape, that maybe a career behind the wheel of a truck is a great place to find a home and a job all in one. And I reckon now might be a good chance for you just to one more time tell us the name of where they should come to get that help.
Pilbara Heavy Haulage Girls Group, Facebook, Instagram, or online. Thanks, Shane.
Oh, mate, I'm never going to stop yelling that. Trust me. We do an outro now. The thing I hate about outros, Heather, is when people do them and you can tell that the other people aren't there to hear their outro on a podcast. I refuse to do it that way. So you get to sit with me while I give you your outro. That was Heather. Wasn't it, Heather? You could say yes.
Yeah, it was. Thanks, Shane.
And I'm going to describe you in your outro as not only wonderful, but fierce, wise, and full of practical gold. I'm Shane Jacobson, and this is How You're Travelling. You can catch more great yarns just like this in other episodes. And don't forget, the Healthy Heads app is there with tips, tools, and check-ins anytime you need them. I'm going to say goodbye, but you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from someone who knows more about your world than I do. Heather Jones, can you say goodbye to our listeners?
Goodbye, and stay safe on those highways, folks.
See, you did my job better than I could. I couldn't even say job properly. See you on the road, folks. Take care. If you're doing it tough, don't go it alone. TAX, aka This Is a Conversation Starter, offers 8 free counselling sessions for truckies, tradies, and blue-collar workers. No cost, no GP referral, no fuss. Just call 0488 846 988. That number again, 0488 846 988. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and need support right away, call Lifeline on 13 11 14. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.